Hi everyone, my name's James. Welcome to my new series, Chasing the Tone. This is the series where in each episode I'll pick a favourite song of mine and I'll try to recreate or get close to the guitar tone in that song using the equipment that I have at home. So today, as you can see, we are doing Since I've Been Loving You by Led Zeppelin. This was on Led Zeppelin 3, which I believe was recorded around 1970. It's a slightly underrated album in my opinion, and my favourite song from it is Since I've Been Loving You. But what do we know about how this was recorded? Well, Jimmy Page had some trouble getting the tone that he really wanted. What we don't know is, what guitar did he use? Did he use the Les Paul or the Telecaster? He's famous for using both. The Telecaster earlier in his career and the Les Paul from I think around mid-68 or early 69 onwards. There are such conflicting sort of reports about whether he used one guitar or the other. So it's difficult to say without trying. I do know from live performances about him using the Les Paul live, and the one on A Song Remains the Same is one of my favourite ever performances. You should go and find that on YouTube, it's there. So the other thing is we don't know what amp he used, and I don't think he's ever revealed that. Whereas, although I can't find it anymore, I think there was an interview where he might have mentioned using the Les Paul to record. But we're not 100% sure. When it comes to the amp, apparently he found one at the recording studio that he then used. So we have no idea whether it was Marshall, Fender, Vox, or you name it, we don't know. What am I going to be able to use? Well, first thing we're going to do is test out all the guitars that I have. I'm going to try to go into it with an open mind. This is not about being Jimmy Page or completely copying Jimmy Page. This is about getting a tone that you might use to either sort of record a cover, not that I think anyone would really record this as a cover, or maybe more likely you're playing it with your band and you just want to get close to that tone. Well, I have several guitars. I've got this Strat, I've got a Tele, I've got this Gold Top P90, Paul Reed Smith, and then I've got a vintage Ibanez, which is called the Ibanez Musician. That's from about 1979. That has humbuckers. So we've got several guitars to test. I've spent a little bit of time practicing the song, which you can see here. And you'll see that I started off terribly. I've improved a tiny bit. It might not get much better than that. But again, this series isn't about how I play the guitar. It's, you know, most of you will be much better guitar players than me. But I've been collecting a bit of equipment. I want to use it. The amp that I'm going to use is the Tone King Sky King. And then for the beginning of the song, it's probably going to be clean tones and just based on the guitar dynamics themselves. I'm going to do the first part of the intro. Then there's a little few phrases which sound more overdriven in the second part of the intro, which I'm also going to try and get the tone for. I'm just going to play a couple of phrases from throughout the intro on each guitar as quickly as I can. I'm going to keep the tone of the amp the same throughout. I'm going to do it on the neck pickup because that's what I believe he used. Some people say he used the middle. I've seen him play it on the live tapes when it's in the neck position. Hopefully we'll get a feel for what the sound of each guitar is and whether it can even get close. So let's get onto that and I'll see you afterwards. That's actually made me more confused rather than less. I think I might have to go and listen to the recording and see what I think. I can rule out the Ibanez. It was definitely my least favourite. I'm going to rule out the gold top because when I put it onto the bridge pickup, it sounded a little bit honky for what I would think I would be going for in the more solo or overdriven sections. I love the sound of the Strat actually, and I really enjoy playing my Strat with its modern C-shaped neck. But just out of principle, I'm not going to play a Strat to do a Jimmy Page. I know he had a Strat, I know he's played it on a few things. Pretty darn sure he never used it for Since I've Been Loving You. The telly sounded good. It really did sound good. I wonder what you think. Leave your comment down below. Tell me what you think I should have chosen. Let me just play for one more second. Something about the tone there, it's gorgeous. I'm not sure that it matches what's exactly on the recording. Obviously, even if he used a Telecaster, this is a different Telecaster. I'm going to need to put that side by side with the Paul Reed Smith, which is the one with the humbuckers that I feel instinctively would come the closest, but I just need to do that again with the Paul Reed Smith. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to discard all of them apart from the telly and this Paul Reed Smith. And I'm glad it looks a little bit like the colour scheme on his number one. Then when we move on to the amp and the pedals, I will just try them again quickly with each one and we'll see. So let's move on to the amp. As I said, I've got a Tone King Sky King, which is a wonderful boutique amp. One of its main features actually is that it has a built-in attenuator, and I'm finding that really useful because I can break up the tubes using the volume tone and not kill myself. At the moment it's on either -18 or -21 decibels, so it really does bring it down a lot. I've got it set up in almost what in the manual it calls blackface. I'm pretty close to that on the dials. So I just want to tweak with that for a bit. I'm not going to show you every step of that process, but I will just show you what I end up with and maybe explain why. And then once that's done, I think we can move on to figure out the pedal for the overdriven bit, which is going to be a lot of fun. So let me play around with that and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I quite like the way it's set up. One thing about Jimmy Page is the amount of treble he gets even when he's using the neck pickup. I don't have his pickups, I don't have his volume and tone pots, so that's hard for me to emulate. I'm going to try and kick in some more treble on the amp, but I'm not sure that's going to be the answer.
Logical.
You'll see that I've kept the reverb very low. Okay, I actually think it is closer to what his tone is, that brightness. Just turn the bass down a little bit just to see if that makes much difference. Sorry, that wasn't recording through the mics, but you'll have got that through the room mic. I'm just playing around again with that bass and treble. Yeah. I do quite like that. I want to see what happens just so I can show you what I meant by the reverb. If I whack the reverb up quite a lot, I think maybe the treble's just a tiny bit too high. When you go up to the top end, there is just a bit too much brittle treble. I'm going to put that down a little bit, put the bass up a little bit. If I just roll the tone down slightly on the guitar. Okay, we're getting closer. I'm just going to try the telly out of interest. It is sounding good. Last thing I want to do with the amp, because I think I'd be happy with that tone. Broadly, it's not too broken up. It's got some fatness. It's got plenty of treble, and the reverb is down, right down. Just to show you the difference, let's whack it into the lead and put it on a more tweedy tone. Just see what that sounds like. That's maybe backfired a little bit because it sounds pretty good. Do you know what? It's funny that it seems to have this tone, which in the manual for this amp, the lead tone on this lower mid-cut setting is like a tweed amp. So we've gone from blackface to tweed, and now I think I'm going to have a difficulty in deciding. I think the deciding factor will be the Paul Reed Smith. Okay, back to the cleaner setting. Okay, now that's the dilemma. No, I'm going to stick to my gut instinct. That is the rhythm channel on this amp in a blackface setting, but with a bit more treble. So not such booming bass end, and just breaking up the tubes a tiny bit to give me that dynamic for when I need it. Right, that's what I'm sticking with. If I was playing live with drums and a bass and organ and everything, I would have to try out the lead just to see if it would need to cut through more. But as I am sitting here, I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the pedal for that second part of the intro. Okay, so I've got the pedal board here. You can see it through the other camera. First things first is, obviously this is not that pedal show, nowhere near, of course. This pedal board is not set up for this video, it's just the way I have it. Recently I've moved it around a lot and a lot of stuff has come loose, and it's just real world, you know, keeping it real. So anyway, if I ever make it big on YouTube, then hopefully we'll get a tidier pedal board. All right, I'm just checking that you'll be able to see at least somewhat. Once I choose the pedal, I'll show you a close-up. But here's what we have. We have the Tula, which I found out about by watching Josh Smith videos. We've got the Wampler Euphoria, which is supposed to be a Dumble style transparent overdrive. We've got an 808 Tube Screamer Pro, which is got the boost and the drive on there. Then we've got the Mjolnir, and although I don't know if it will be the thing, we've got the Revival Trem, which I wouldn't keep with the Trem on. Tell you what, let's start in that order, and let's just see if any of these cut the mustard. Okay, loose connection. Right, so that's how it is on the clean. Okay, so what if he had changed to the middle position? And bridge. Ooh. actually starting to sound pretty good. Okay, so revival trem is in, potentially. Let's go for the Tula. Okay, we're having some teething issues today. So there's two sides to the Tula. I think this is more just the boost side. Okay, so it's a very loud pedal, honestly. Straight away, it doesn't feel like the pedal for me for this one. This, you know, Josh Smith has this incredible style that I love, and it's, I mean, it's not, no, vibrant's not the right word. It's on the edge, you know, it's so loud and it's like, boom, in your face. To me, it just doesn't have what I need for this, compared to what this sounded like. Anyway, that has that more, to me, that the tone that reminds me of classic rock and the 70s. Let's go for the Euphoria. I'll whack the gain to there, turn the bass down, because that's, on this pedal, the bass when it's at 0 is just neutral, that's as your guitar would have it, and it adds bass from there, and we'll turn the tone up. That actually also sounds pretty good. That's on the crunch setting. Just try the open setting. No, that's lost what I thought was there. Add a tiny bit of bass in. Bit more gain, bit more tone. No, it should go back to where it was. Compare that to the revival trem. Don't know, I'm liking that revival trem. We'll play around with that in a minute. Okay, Tube Screamer. So just on the boost side, okay, and add in the overdrive. So let's boost it post overdrive instead of pre. Okay, it's still maybe not quite what the revival trem is giving me. And then the Mighty Mjolnir. I've also got the Golden Plexi. Let's try that, maybe get that out of the way. I'm not a fan of this pedal. But, well, of course that would happen. It might sound pretty good. Okay, so Golden Plexi is also good. Okay, this is surprising me. I didn't think it would be this easy to get somewhat of the tone that I'm looking for. Okay, so tone quite far up, gain quite far up, output lower. So, I think think it's between the Revival Trem and the Golden Plexi. So let me just play around with that for a second. Revival Trem. These pedals are really quite expensive, but they're fantastic. I mean, the tone that you get out of them is beautiful. I've been looking at some of the other Origin Effects pedals. I'll have to save up a bit. But anyway, just give me a moment. I want to listen to the track just to get my head around that bit again. The dilemma I have now is I think it's this guitar. I'm happy with the amp settings, and I'm happy to use that Golden Plexi pedal, which, that Plexi thing, I mean, Jimmy Page did use Marshall amps. I'm not an expert on any on Marshall amps or that Plexi thing. I've never used one, never played one. But the fizz, the gain, and it's not that clean overdrive, if you see what I mean, like a Tube Screamer. It's much fizzier, which you can hear. So I'm quite happy with that. Let me just do the Revival Trem for one more second. But the actual tone isn't exactly right. The Golden Plexi gets a lot closer. So for what I have built into this setup, and what I have available right now, that might be the closest. The last thing I'll check is whether my amp can get anywhere close to the tone I need in its lead setting. That's a good tone, it's not going to be the one. Alright, I think the last decision to make is just what pickup to use. So we could go bridge all the way. Or we could go in the middle. Or we could go neck. And I wonder what the Golden Plexi sounds in the neck position. Alright folks, I think we've got it. So let's go through a run through. Let's do it. Well, there we go. A couple of mistakes in there. I think I got as close as I can. The last thing to do is to try it out on the Telecaster, because that was the other option that we had. Okay, let's go for it straight away. there you go. I'd like to hear in the comments what you think about the format of this video and also about the choice between the two guitars, the pedal that I ended up using, what settings on the amp you might have used that were different, and let's keep the negativity to a minimum about my playing if we can. Hopefully I'll get better over time. But anyway, for me personally, the Paul Reed Smith I think just gets it. There's a bit more dynamic range in that guitar. But that doesn't mean that Jimmy didn't use a Telecaster. He may well have done, if not his Les Paul. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this sort of thing, please subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. See you on the next one.